Kaspa is up over 300 in just the last year, and I didn't get in that early, sadly. I definitely got in a lot sooner. If you had been following my Twitter, you would have seen when I got in on Kaspa, which I've seen nice gains since then. But nonetheless, if I had been invested, I would have had a bigger red light there. Kaspa really is second to none in the blockchain. It solves the blockchain trilema of speed, decentralization, and security. Now, I don't want to say I told you so on the price increase, but I am a YouTuber and I have to say something. Otherwise, no one will be listening to me. But if you do want to hear more about Kaspa and other projects that have great utility and a massive chance of doing well, there's that subscribe button, and when you're there, hit the like button as well, because you are a finisher. Let's get into it. So just an explainer for those of you who don't know, Kaspa uses the proof of work concept, which Bitcoin uses as well, whereas something like Solana uses the date. And that difference is essentially the proof of work, miners have to solve complex calculations, and in that they have to use a lot of computational power and electricity. This basically gives security to the network, so they're much more incentivized to process authentic data, because otherwise they won't get their rewards, whilst also losing out on the computational power and resource that they have put in terms of energy. And whereas the proof of stake requires you to stake a load of the crypto so you can become a validator. The problem with the proof of stake model is that it's not as decentralized. If someone has staked a ton of the crypto chain, then they can become a validator at a much higher percentage, which means that the network actually becomes more centralized if someone is staking majority of the blockchain, whereas proof of work assigns the blocks randomly to validators. However, it is important to know with a proof of stake, as the price goes up, it becomes incredibly expensive to own a higher percentage of the blockchain, because obviously the price has gone up a lot, so you need to stake a lot more money to become a higher percentage. So that is just something to know. However, in Bitcoin, for example, the miners compete, and then the one who processes it the fastest is then assigned the block to process the transaction to reap the reward. However, in Kaspa, multiple validators have to come to the same conclusions on the block, and then the block is processed. However, the problem with Bitcoin is that each block is processed one after the other. So this creates congestion in the network, because each block has to be processed before the next block is processed. And obviously, if that transaction speed and the block speed is very low, then the network can become incredibly congested, and then gas fees become incredibly high, as you would have known if you were ever during the NFT rush. Gas fees were just absolutely insane. And Kaspa has a solution for this. So instead of processing each block one after the other, it will process blocks in random orders as and when they are ready. Kaspa calls this the block DAG, and here's just a visualization on their website. So I don't know if you ever played a game where someone has to do something and then the next person can start once that first person has started. At the end, when all of the people are complete, that team wins. But imagine for a second that was just a real world thing. It would just be incredibly inefficient. But in Kaspa's case, everyone can just start making it straight away, and it just happens a lot quicker. Therefore, you get the security whilst also having the decentralization proof of work concept. And this is where Kaspa really shines. But Solana does 65,000 transactions per second, and Kaspa only does 400. And whilst you might be right, well done, you know your stuff, it's not actually just down to that on how fast things are processed. It also comes down to the block. And while Solana can only process 2.5 blocks, let's think of it like a library. Pages are the transactions and the books are the block. If you are just putting tons of pages onto the shelves, yes, the information is there, but nobody knows what they're reading. If someone comes to take a book and they just see tons of pages, they're not really going to know what they're getting. So if the books are there, then the pages can be filled, and that means be able to read the book fully. So that means that we need the blocks to be processed quickly, as well as the transactions quickly. So these two things are also very important, but blocks end up being the most important thing, because if we're not able to put the block on the chain, then absolutely nothing is done in the first place. And essentially the blocks just have a limit on the amount of data that they can store. So if the blocks of Solana are full, then this becomes the rate limiter, whereas Kaspa can process much more blocks. So this is the advantage of Kaspa. In theory, the block processing speed ends up being more important than transactions, because without the blocks, nothing can be processed. What makes Kaspa even better is there is no VC money. The developers are great. It had a fair launch, unlike ICP or Filecoin. So it has just had a very smooth process, but it is still a very early project. We haven't seen smart contracts released yet, so the utility of the token is much less, but it has the foundations to do very well. So as we start to see those smart contracts become live on Kaspa, we can start to see some adoption in some key industries like healthcare, finance, etc. Will Kaspa really shine due to its absolute security, and it might be preferred over Solana, which has a less security than Kaspa. But where are we going from here in Kaspa in terms of price? If you can see, we've done this very recently. Back in December, we had this huge huge rally, and then we just had a pullback. Let's take a look. Around a 37% drop after that peak. So we're kind of right there at the moment. We failed to make new highs again, and what's to be expected to follow is a bit of a pullback. I would say we'll come down to this sort of area, to the 0.14. So this is your buy zone. So if you are at the top right now and you're thinking of buying, I would wait. We've seen huge pump in all of the cryptos lately, particularly Bitcoin and Ethereum. I would expect people to be taking some profits very soon. We'll see a bit of a pullback. Everyone will start saying crypto's dying. It's taken huge hits, but what we're likely to see is a redistribution. People will take their profits, hold, and then look for some new opportunities. And I think Kaspa is a great project for that. I do think we're going to follow a similar pattern to Solana this bull market, where we're likely to see around a 5x. Obviously not financial advice, but the upside is absolutely there for Kaspa. It has built the real foundations for a great project, and as we start to see some more adoption and utility, then we can really see some drivers for Kaspa's price. But everyone is looking in crypto for those true utility and true tokens that are going to survive this bull run into the long term, and I believe Kaspa is one of those. But anyway, that kind of wraps up our video around Kaspa. I'll be looking forward to having some more updates when we do see that pullback, because I kind of think it's pretty much in the stars. We're kind of guaranteed to see that. But anyways, guys, if you did like the video, you did like the information and my silly jokes, like and subscribe. I really see you in the next